This year, don't set 100 goals, make one decision. One decision so clear, so grounded in purpose that everything else aligns behind it. Because it's not the number of goals that changes your life, it's the power behind your commitment. What if one bold decision could reshape the way you think, act, lead, and live? This isn't about doing more, it's about choosing better. The new year doesn't need a new you, it needs a focused you. What if I told you that the most important decision of your life won't come with a round of applause? It won't arrive with confetti. It won't be broadcast on social media. It'll happen quietly, maybe even today. One decision, made with clarity and courage, has the power to redirect your future. Not because everything around you changes, but because you change. Every year, millions of people make promises. I'll lose weight. I'll save more. I'll be better. And every year, most of those promises fade into the fog of forgotten ambition. Why? Because most people are chasing outcomes without deciding who they're willing to become. The truth is, your life doesn't change when the clock strikes midnight on December 31st. Your life changes the moment you make a decision you refuse to back down from. That decision doesn't have to be loud, but it must be deep. It doesn't need to impress others. It needs to convince you. Because the only way forward is through commitment, not convenience. When you decide with purpose, you create alignment. You stop living two lives, the one you pretend to live and the one you actually live. And that's when energy returns. That's when momentum builds. That's when burnout fades. Why? Because you're no longer chasing a fantasy. You're building a future. We're often told to think big, dream big, but dreaming doesn't change your life. Deciding does. So here's the invitation. Make one powerful decision, just one. Don't wait until the timing feels right. Don't wait for approval. Don't wait for certainty. Decide who you're becoming, and then live like it. Let your habits match your identity. Let your words reflect your values. Let your presence communicate your purpose. You don't need another resolution. You need a revolution of clarity, of courage, of conviction. One decision, that's all it takes. One decision to stop living on autopilot and start living on assignment. One decision that says, this is who I am now, and you don't negotiate with it. We live in a world obsessed with planning. Productivity books, apps, calendars, color-coded goals, and 90-day systems flood our screens, promising to bring order to chaos. But here's the truth that few want to admit. A perfect plan without a real decision is just a beautifully organized delay. People don't fail because they didn't plan enough. They fail because they never truly decided. A plan is safe. It looks impressive, but a decision is dangerous because it demands action. A plan says someday. A decision says now.
There is a defining difference between someone who dabbles and someone who transforms. The one who transforms didn't just write down goals. They made a decision so deep that it changed how they saw themselves. It wasn't about the details. It was about the direction. They didn't wait for conditions to be perfect. They weren't looking for the right weather or the right motivation. They just decided that who they were yesterday was no longer acceptable, and who they needed to become would require courage, not convenience. Real decisions carry weight. They aren't casual. They aren't made to impress anyone else. They come from a place deep inside you where the truth lives. The part of you that's tired of pretending, tired of procrastinating, tired of being stuck in the middle. That decision isn't loud. Sometimes it happens in complete silence. No fanfare, no applause. Just a quiet moment of clarity where something inside you says, this ends here. The most important decisions in your life usually happen when no one's watching. That's why they're powerful. Because they're made in private and proven in public. We're taught to think that perfect planning will protect us from failure, but failure doesn't come from lack of planning. It comes from lack of ownership. When you truly decide, you stop needing fallback plans. You burn the bridges, you commit. There's no more guessing. You're no longer dating your potential. You've married your mission. That's what a real decision looks like. It's not romantic. It's not always pretty, but it's real. It removes the back door. It silences the excuses. It replaces I'll try with I will. Look at anyone who's changed their life, whether in fitness, business, relationships, or mindset, and you'll find that the turning point wasn't a workshop or a breakthrough strategy. It was a moment of raw honesty with themselves where they chose a new standard and refused to compromise on it. That decision didn't wait for motivation. It didn't require permission. It simply required one thing: the courage to stop running from responsibility. You can create vision boards. You can fill notebooks with goals. But none of it matters until you decide that your life must reflect your values, not your moods. When the decision is real, you show up differently. You stop negotiating with your fears. You stop outsourcing your accountability. You become the kind of person who does what they said they'd do, even when they don't feel like it. Because that's what identity does. It drives behavior. There's nothing wrong with plans. They're useful. But don't confuse them with the thing that truly changes your life. A plan can guide your steps, but only a decision can move your feet. Without that internal commitment, every plan becomes optional. Every challenge becomes an excuse. Every failure becomes final. But when the decision is made, even the setbacks feel temporary. You begin to think differently, speak differently, act differently, because you are different. This is why two people can have the same strategy, the same resources, even the same starting line, and one of them will create a breakthrough while the other stays stuck. The difference isn't intelligence. It's not talent. It's not even luck. It's decision, real decision, the kind you make when you finally get tired of the gap between who you are and who you know you're meant to be. The kind that rearranges your priorities, not because someone told you to, but because you can no longer live in contradiction with yourself. You don't need a better plan to start. You need a better reason to never quit. And that reason only comes from a place of full ownership, not blaming the past, not fearing the future, just deciding, fully, completely, that you will no longer live in conflict with your calling. Once you decide, the plan becomes useful. But until then, it's just noise. Once you decide, the obstacles don't go away, but your identity gets stronger than your circumstances, and that changes everything. Most people begin the new year with a list of outcomes. They want to lose weight, make more money, get promoted, become more disciplined, finally start that dream project. These are all admirable goals, but the problem isn't the goals. It's the lens they're looking through. Goals are external, identity is internal, and real transformation begins with identity. When you only focus on what you want to achieve, you become obsessed with short-term results. You chase numbers on a scale, digits in a bank account, or milestones in your career. But when you focus on who you want to become, you build a foundation that can't be shaken by temporary setbacks. Achievement without identity is fragile. You can hit the goal and still feel empty. You can climb the ladder and still feel lost. That's because success that isn't rooted in identity always leaves you questioning your worth. But when you start with identity, when you choose to become the kind of person who lives in alignment with purpose, then the actions follow naturally. You're no longer forcing yourself to work hard. You're simply acting out who you already are. The decision is no longer about checking a box. It's about living a truth. This shift is radical. It changes everything about how you approach discipline, routine, and progress. Instead of saying, "I need to read more books," you say, "I am someone who values growth." Instead of saying, "I want to start waking up early," you decide, "I am the kind of person who rises with intention." That identity-driven language rewires your mind. It removes the constant negotiation. It moves you out of willpower mode and into alignment mode. Think about it. When you identify as a healthy person, you don't need to be convinced to eat differently. When you identify as a focused leader, distractions lose their power. When you identify as someone with a purpose, you stop chasing everything shiny because you've already chosen what matters. Identity gives your decisions structure. It's the internal compass that keeps you moving even when motivation runs out. One of the biggest reasons people stay stuck is because they're trying to force behavior that doesn't match their internal identity. They're trying to act like a winner while still thinking like someone who's afraid to lose. They're trying to be disciplined while still identifying as someone who always quits. Until that identity changes, the actions will always feel like a battle. But once the identity shifts, everything becomes aligned. The resistance doesn't disappear, but the commitment becomes stronger. This is why some people can experience a massive transformation without anyone else understanding what happened. It's not that they suddenly got smarter, richer, or more talented. They just decided to stop chasing outcomes and start embodying identity. They stopped asking, "What do I want to have?" and started asking, "Who do I need to become?" And that question forces clarity. It makes you confront the gap between your current choices and your future vision. It challenges your habits, your environment, your mindset. It makes you uncomfortable in the best way possible. Becoming someone new doesn't mean rejecting who you've been. It means choosing to evolve. It means deciding that your past isn't a prison, it's a classroom. You can learn from it, grow through it, but you don't have to live in it. When you decide who you want to become, you give your actions a direction. You give your days meaning. You stop measuring your worth by how fast you move and start measuring it by how true you stay to who you've chosen to be. This is the difference between people who live intentionally and those who drift. The drifters are constantly adjusting their goals, hoping a new plan will bring motivation. But the ones who move with purpose, they've made the deeper decision. Their identity is already set. So their actions become expressions of that identity. Not chores, not obligations, but reflections of who they are becoming. And identity is built, not born. It's not something you wait for. It's something you decide on. Every action you take either reinforces your current identity or builds the new one. Every time you say no to distractions, you're voting for the identity of a focused person. Every time you speak with courage, you're casting a vote for the identity of someone who leads. It's not about perfection. It's about repetition. You show up, you act, you build the identity brick by brick. And eventually, you look around and realize that who you are now is completely different from who you used to be. Not because of a single moment, but because of a series of daily decisions fueled by a clear, chosen identity. Discomfort is not your enemy, it's your invitation. Most people run from it. They dodge anything that feels unfamiliar, uncertain, or challenging. But if you look closely, you'll find that every single breakthrough in life has one thing in common. It was born in discomfort. Growth doesn't come wrapped in ease. It doesn't announce itself with comfort or calm. It shows up disguised as resistance, frustration, failure, awkwardness, and fear. That's how you know it's working. That's how you know you're getting closer to the edge of who you've been and stepping into who you're meant to become. We are wired to avoid pain, but we are also wired to seek purpose. And those two forces are always at war with each other. One wants to keep you safe, the other wants to make you significant, but you can't have both at the same time. The road to significance will always feel risky. It will require you to do things you've never done, speak truths you're afraid to say, and stand in rooms where you feel like you don't belong, yet. And that feeling of being stretched, of not being ready, of being exposed, that is the exact place where transformation begins. Because it's in those moments that you stop leaning on comfort and start building strength. Nothing worth having comes without a cost. The question is not whether discomfort will come at will. The question is whether you will use it or avoid it. Discomfort is a mirror. It shows you what you believe about yourself. If you believe you're not good enough, discomfort will feel like proof. But if you believe you're growing into something greater, discomfort becomes a challenge, a test you're willing to take, not to prove others wrong, but to prove to yourself that you've outgrown your old limits. Look at the stories that inspire you. None of them are about people who stayed safe. They're about people who leaned into discomfort when it would have been easier to quit. They stepped into arenas they weren't prepared for. They made decisions when there was no guarantee of success. They walked through doors that were intimidating, and in doing so, they became someone they never imagined. You don't become bold by reading about courage. You don't become disciplined by thinking about consistency. You become those things by choosing them when they're hardest to choose. Discomfort strips away the illusion of control. It humbles you. It reminds you that you're not entitled to growth. You must earn it. And you earn it by walking through what others run from. That difficult conversation you've been avoiding, that's your doorway. That fear of rejection keeping you from starting the project, that's your doorway. That sense of not being qualified enough to lead, speak, change, or create, that's your doorway. Every area of discomfort is a training ground, shaping you for the life you say you want. But here's what makes discomfort powerful. It's never just about pain. It always carries purpose. The discomfort of saying no builds your boundaries. The discomfort of showing up every day builds your character. The discomfort of failing in public builds your resilience. If you keep waiting to feel comfortable before you act, you'll wait forever. But if you can teach yourself to expect discomfort and lean into it, you'll discover that everything you want is on the other side of what you're afraid to feel. There's a version of you that exists on the other side of your comfort zone. That version is stronger, bolder, more grounded, and more capable. But you don't reach that version by accident. You don't stumble into excellence. You walk through the fire to get there. You sweat, you cry, you get knocked down, you question everything, and then you stand up again. Because discomfort is not the sign you're going the wrong way. It's the sign you're becoming someone new. Every challenge you're avoiding is a gift in disguise, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Avoiding it might give you relief in the short term, but facing it will give you power in the long term. And real power is not about control or applause, it's about inner strength. The kind of strength that lets you stand in the storm and not break. The kind of strength that lets you keep moving when nothing is certain. The kind of strength that turns obstacles into opportunities. Discomfort sharpens you. It reveals what you're made of. It builds the muscle of focus, the backbone of perseverance, and the clarity of what actually matters. While most people are retreating into comfort, the few who are willing to step forward into discomfort are the ones who lead, who build, who rise. They're not fearless. They've just learned that fear is not a reason to stop. It's a signal to start, because if the path ahead doesn't make you uncomfortable, then it's probably not leading to anything that matters. Perfection is a moving target. It seduces you with the illusion of control, convincing you that once everything is flawless, then you'll begin. Then you'll launch. Then you'll show up. But perfection is a liar. It's a disguise for fear. Fear of failure. Fear of judgment. Fear of not being enough. And that fear is the exact thing standing between you and the life you're capable of living. Progress, on the other hand, is honest. It's messy. It's raw. It demands effort, not excuses. It rewards action, not appearance. And that's why progress must always be the decision, because perfection will keep you waiting forever. Every dream that dies before it starts is usually strangled by the pursuit of perfection. People sit on ideas for years because they're waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect moment, the perfect version of themselves. But nothing great was ever born out of waiting. Everything that matters starts before you're ready. Everything significant is built while you're still figuring it out. The people who make real impact aren't the ones with flawless beginnings. They're the ones who are willing to begin flawed. They move forward knowing they'll stumble, knowing they'll make mistakes, but they keep going anyway because they've chosen progress as their measure of success. When you pursue perfection, you measure yourself against an impossible standard. You set yourself up to always fall short. But when you pursue progress, you become free, free to improve, free to try, free to grow, free to fail and still keep going. Progress builds momentum. It celebrates consistency over intensity. It rewards the person who shows up every day, not the one who only shows up when conditions are perfect. And in that repetition, in that daily choice to move forward just a little bit, greatness is quietly being formed. It's not the grand gestures that change your life. It's the small, repeated decisions done with intention. Waking up early even when you don't feel like it. Speaking up when staying silent would be easier. Sending the email, making the call, finishing the draft, choosing the salad, showing up to the gym, saying no when yes would feel more comfortable. These moments may feel insignificant, but stacked together, they shape your future. That's the power of progress. It compounds, it grows. It builds momentum quietly, underneath the surface, until one day, the world notices what you've built, and they call it excellence, even though you know it was born through imperfection. Perfection is an illusion created by comparison. It thrives in the age of social media, where everyone's highlight reel becomes your measuring stick. You see the polished version of others and think that's the starting point. But what you don't see are the years of practice, the awkward beginnings, the nights of self-doubt, and the quiet battles they fought to get there. No one begins as a master. Everyone begins unknown, unrefined, unfinished. That's the process. That's the truth. And when you embrace that, when you accept the reality that progress is what moves you forward, not perfection, you start to unlock your potential. There's something liberating about giving yourself permission to be bad before you're good. It doesn't mean you settle. It means you stop waiting to feel ready. Readiness is built through motion. Clarity comes from action. Confidence comes from doing the thing you fear. You don't become a great speaker by reading about communication. You don't become fit by buying gym clothes. You don't become a leader by watching videos. You become all of those things by stepping into the arena, by facing the resistance, by choosing to make progress even when it's uncomfortable. People respect progress more than perfection because progress is human, it's relatable. When you share your story while you're still in the trenches, you inspire people. You give them hope that they can begin too. No one connects with someone who looks untouchable. They connect with someone who is real, someone who is becoming, someone who is honest about the journey. So don't hide your imperfections. Don't wait until everything is perfect before you show the world what you're working on. Show up messy, show up uncertain, show up imperfect, and do it again tomorrow. That's what builds trust. That's what builds resilience. That's what builds you. The perfectionist mind says, don't do it until it's right. The progress-driven mind says, do it until it becomes right. That shift is everything. It moves you from passivity to power. It moves you from thinking to doing. And every time you take one step forward, even if it's small, you are rewriting your future. The more you practice choosing progress, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, perfection won't even tempt you because you'll be too busy building something real. Everyone has dreams, everyone sets goals, but very few build systems, and that's where the gap lies. Motivation will get you excited about change, but systems are what make change sustainable. Without a system, your vision remains an idea. With a system, it becomes a lifestyle. It becomes repeatable, trackable, and reliable. Systems are what separate the intentional from the accidental. They're what keep your progress alive on the days when you're tired, when you're uninspired, or when life throws distractions in your face. If you want to build something meaningful, it won't be your passion that carries you, it'll be your process. Your system is your anchor. It's the structure you create to ensure you move forward, even when your emotions fluctuate. Because emotions are fleeting, some mornings you'll feel ready to conquer the world. Other days you'll feel like hiding from it. But a system doesn't care how you feel. A system just says, show up, do the thing, take the step, log the effort. It brings order to the chaos. It replaces willpower with habit. It turns your big goals into small, manageable daily commitments. And in that consistency, in that rhythm, you create momentum that becomes nearly impossible to stop. People often mistake systems for routines, but systems go deeper. A routine is what you do. A system is how and why you do it. It's the environment you design to set yourself up for success. If your goal is to write a book, your system isn't just writing every day. It's scheduling focused time, clearing distractions, tracking your word count, and reviewing your drafts. If your goal is to become healthy, your system includes more than exercise. It includes prepping your meals, managing your sleep, tracking your hydration, and creating accountability. Systems make your vision inevitable because they take the guesswork out of your progress. Think about a plane flying across the country. It doesn't stay exactly on course the entire flight. Winds shift, weather interferes, but the system of autopilot adjusts constantly, making micro-corrections along the way to bring the plane to its exact destination. Your system works the same way. Life will knock you off track, but if you've built a system, if you've put habits, tools, and support in place, you'll always find your way back. You don't need perfection. You need process. You don't need to feel ready every day. You need to be committed every day to the process that leads to your outcome. Vision gives you direction, but systems give you traction. One without the other is frustrating. Having a vision with no system leaves you inspired but stuck. Having a system with no vision keeps you busy but aimless. The magic happens when both work together, when your daily habits serve your deeper purpose. That's when you start living intentionally. That's when you stop reacting to life and start designing it. And the more you reinforce your system, the less energy you waste trying to force results. And the more progress becomes your natural state. Systems also protect your energy. They reduce decision fatigue by removing unnecessary choices. You don't have to ask yourself every morning, should I work out today? The system says yes, because that's the plan. You don't have to decide what to eat, when to start your work, or how to end your day. Your system already knows. This frees your mind for deeper thinking, for creativity, for leadership. High performers aren't just disciplined, they are systemized. They've built processes that support their purpose so they don't have to start from scratch every day. Building a system doesn't mean overcomplicating your life. In fact, it's the opposite. A great system is simple, sustainable, and adaptable. It works in real life, not just on paper. It doesn't demand perfection. It accounts for the fact that life is unpredictable. A good system bends without breaking, and over time it becomes second nature, so integrated into who you are that you can't imagine functioning without it. That's when you know it's working, when your actions begin to match your values automatically, when your habits become expressions of your identity. The most powerful systems are built with intention, not intensity. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You need to design your environment one step at a time. Start small, track your progress, learn what works, remove friction, add structure, automate what you can. And most importantly, align your system with your bigger why. Because a system that's disconnected from your purpose will always feel like a burden. But a system that's rooted in meaning will feel like empowerment. It won't drain you, it'll fuel you, and that fuel will take you farther than willpower ever could. It's easy to find people who will clap for you. The world is full of noise, full of likes, shares, compliments, and surface-level affirmations. But applause can't hold you up when life gets heavy. It can't sharpen you when your thinking goes dull. It can't correct you when you're drifting off course. What you need more than celebration is correction. What you need more than cheerleaders is accountability. The ones who will look you in the eye and tell you the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, are the ones who will help you grow. Because real progress doesn't come from being celebrated. It comes from being challenged. We're living in a time where validation is cheap. People chase followers, not friends. Approval, not alignment. But deep down, everyone craves something more real. Relationships built on honesty, not just hype. Accountability is what separates maturity from immaturity. It's the difference between someone who wants to appear successful and someone who actually becomes it. Applause feeds your ego. Accountability shapes your character. And character is what determines whether your success lasts or falls apart the moment pressure hits. When you surround yourself with people who hold you accountable, you're not inviting judgment. You're inviting growth. These are the people who remind you of your standards when you're tempted to lower them. They don't flatter you to keep your friendship. They speak truth to protect your future. They won't let you settle. They won't let you play small, and they won't let you drift from your values even when it would be easier to let things slide. They don't just ask you how you're doing. They ask you what you're doing. What you're building, what you're avoiding, what you're becoming. Most people avoid accountability because it exposes weakness. It shines a light on the areas we'd rather hide. But the truth is, growth only happens in the light. You can't change what you won't confront, and you can't confront what you refuse to acknowledge. Accountability creates the space where change becomes possible. It forces honesty. It demands alignment between your words and your actions. And over time, it turns your potential into performance. It transforms who you say you are into who you actually are. The right people in your circle will make you uncomfortable in the best way. They'll challenge your excuses. They'll question your decisions, not to criticize you, but to keep you focused on your mission. They'll ask you hard questions because they care too much to let you wander aimlessly. You'll know you've found real accountability when you leave a conversation not just feeling supported, but stretched. Not just encouraged, but elevated. These are the relationships that change lives. Not because they always agree with you, but because they always stand for what's best for you. Applause feels good in the moment, but it fades. It doesn't last. Accountability, though, that sticks. It echoes in your mind when you're tempted to quit. It reminds you of your commitments when no one is watching. It brings clarity when your vision starts to blur. It's the quiet voice of a mentor, a coach, a friend, who sees your potential and refuses to let you waste it. And that kind of support, though rare, is worth more than all the noise in the world. Building a life of impact requires feedback loops, not echo chambers. It means intentionally placing people in your life who have permission to call you out, call you forward, and call you higher. That permission is powerful because it only works if you honor it. If you resist correction, you block your own growth. If you treat every critique as an attack, you'll never grow beyond your comfort zone. But if you lean into it, if you invite it, you'll begin to grow in ways applause could never inspire. The strongest leaders, creators, and high performers don't just have fans. They have mentors, coaches, advisors, and friends who keep them sharp. They've built systems of accountability that ensure they never get too comfortable, too proud, or too distracted. And that's not weakness, that's wisdom. They know that left to their own devices, they'll drift. So they create guardrails. They build feedback into their environment. They choose people who care more about their growth than their approval rating. And that choice changes everything. You won't build a legacy by surrounding yourself with people who are impressed by you. You build it by surrounding yourself with people who expect something from you, who know what you're capable of and refuse to let you settle for less, who remind you that your decisions matter, that your consistency counts, that your excuses don't define you. Your actions do. And when you build that kind of circle, your vision doesn't just stay alive, it multiplies. Because now you're not walking alone. You're walking with people who see you clearly, challenge you deeply, and believe in you fully, not because of what you've already done, but because of what they know you're still capable of becoming. You said, "Give me strong hook," ChatGPT said. Here's a strong, motivational hook for your speech. One powerful decision for the new year. In the style of Sinek, bold, emotionally gripping, and crafted to instantly capture attention. This year, don't set 100 goals. Make one decision. One decision so clear, so grounded in purpose, that everything else aligns behind it. Because it's not the number of goals that change it. Your life, it's the power behind your commitment. What if one bold decision could reshape the way you think, act, lead, and live? This isn't about doing more. It's about choosing better. The new year doesn't need a new you. It needs a focused you.